Bonjour everybody. I'd like to open the meeting at 6:02 and begin by acknowledging the Whadjuk Noongar people in Reconciliation Week and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging, and just to draw people's attention to the fact that Reconciliation Week, the theme this week is now more than ever. And the town, and I'd really like to thank the town for their work that they've been doing in the reconciliation space as part of my acknowledgement today. So thank you very much for councillors who attended the breakfast yesterday. I understand that we had 16 people attending, including councillors and staff. And we had a yarning circle today, which was also really well attended with 15 people, including councillors and staff attending. And on Friday, we have got a walk being led by Elder Margaret Gidjup from Mudarup, which is taking people along the Wadunbilia Biddy, a traditional path in Cottesloe. So it's wonderful the work that the town's doing in the reconciliation space, and I'd just like to pass on my thanks to the CEO, and if that thanks could be extended through to the administration as well. I'd like to draw your attention to the disclaimer at the front of the agenda with regard to meeting procedure, and also draw your attention to the standing orders and local laws which are on the town's website, and also to let you know that the meeting is being filmed and recorded, but not live streamed at this stage, but it will be placed on the town's website for viewing by members of the public. There are no announcements without discussion. I understand that we do have some public questions today. Firstly, Mr. Stephen Mellor. Are there any other questions? There are no other questions, Mr. Mellor, so if you would like to go now, otherwise I think there are public statements potentially. So public questions come first. I thought she told me it was a question. Sorry. So we have a public statement here, so if you would like to take the lectern. Thank you very much, Mr. Mellor.
Good evening, Council, members of the administration, members of the public and press. My name's Stephen Mellor. Sorry.
No problem.
My name's Stephen Mellor from Graham Court, Cottesloe. I refer to the first responses to my April OCM questions on page 5 in tonight's agenda. Can you please clarify a bit more as to, do not think the point of my question was answered. Yes, it is the CEO that recommends whether a matter is confidential. The council usually takes such advice. There is nothing in the published Car Park 2 strategy that was or is confidential. Why was the strategy not supplied as a draft in the meeting papers? The discussion may well have been confidential, but the strategy was not. I refer to Major Strategy 4.1, engage, inform, actively involve community. The community was certainly disadvantaged as they could not question or provide views to their elected members on a draft strategy before the closed section of the meeting. When was Element appointed as Car Park 2 consultant and at what cost? Why is the strategy still undated? Response 6 in the agenda to my questions, the public are encouraged to use the search function of the website. Please note, the website search tab does not direct to the strategy because the website has title as car park in one word and 2 TWA, whereas the strategy has car, park, number, 2, as do the street signs. Question 4, regarding 10.1.7, again referring to the major strategy 4.1 and 4.3 to deliver open, accountable, transparent governance, will Council please resolve tonight to make the Car Park 2 Element Workshop also open for community attendance and classified as a committee meeting of the FPAC, so it can indeed be in line with its charter. This development impacts the very nature of Cottesloe, its coastal character, and particularly as the strategy was approved behind closed doors. And preempting the response that financial discussions need to remain confidential, Cottesloe residents have been kept in the dark for far too long. I'm sure the concept can be discussed without business case details. Live streaming, and it's mentioned tonight by the presiding member. The state public consultation on proposed new council meeting regulation closes tomorrow. In it, there is a question on the experience of live streaming and meetings. Cottesloe residents cannot submit any comment as there have been no electronic meetings held out of emergency situations, though on a few occasions elected members have taken part in meetings online.
Mr. Mellor,
Yep.
can I just draw your attention to the fact that you're over time now, and if you could
I'm not, it's
round up.
2:55, apart from the minute when I went to get my phone. Do you want to, in that case?
If you could round off that question, thank you, Mr. Mellor.
I've got 4 little questions further to that.
That would be well over 3 minutes, Mr. Mellor, which is part of our standing orders. So if you could round off after this
Okay.
question.
I'm not going to round them off because I have further questions to ask. If there are other members of the public that want to ask questions, I will take my seat and wait until they have spoken. And then I would like, using the remaining time of the minimum 15 minutes of question time,
Mr.
to continue.
Mellor, we're not entering debate. I'm letting you know that you need to finish your last question.
I finished my question. I've made a question. I'm declaring that I think the 15 minutes should be used, and I also refer to the government managing public questions guidelines. The person having used up their allowed time is asked by the presiding member if there are more questions. If they do, then the presiding member notes the request and places them at the end of the queue. The person resumes their seat, which I intend to do, if there are more questions. The next person on the registration list is called. The original registration list is worked through until exhausted. After that, the presiding member calls upon any other persons who did not register to have a question to ask. People may have arrived late. When such people have asked their questions, then the presiding member may, if time permits, provide an opportunity for those who have already asked the question to ask further questions. Public question time is declared closed following that last exhaustion of questions. So I'll await your decision on that.
If you could round off your question, Mr. Mellor, and then that is my decision to round off that question. Thank you very much.
Okay. So what is no, wrong one, sorry. Live stream, my questions were, when will forum and OCM meetings be live streamed? Until they are, I suggest the disclaimer statement at the front of the agenda papers be corrected. It has been incorrect, I think, since April. What process will be implemented for public question and statement time within live streaming?
Thank you very much for your questions, Mr. Mellor.
I haven't quite finished that one, if you would allow me.
That is multiple questions. Thank you, Mr. Mellor, for resuming your seat. Thank you very much, Mr. Mellor. As there are no other public questions, we'll move on to public statement time. We have public statement from... Thank you very much. As there are no other people asking public questions, I will call on public statements. Diane Trichet.
Good evening. I've not done this before, but thank you for giving me the time
Ms.
to have my
Trichet,
voice.
thank you very much for coming, and so I'll just talk you through the process because I didn't do that at the beginning. So the normal process is to state your name and your address,
Well, my
and then
name
to move into your public statement, and you've got 3 minutes.
My name is Diane Trichet, and I live in Athelston Road in Cottesloe. I'm here tonight to present the 90 names as a result of an advertisement in the Post newspaper for people to have their say as follows. We respectively request Cottesloe Town Council to mandate against any further hiring of Cottesloe Beach for private events, in particular those offering public ticketing. I'm going to hand you this, if I may, with the names, and there's also a graph of the relative suburbs that responded, which is very interesting. The major response was from Cottesloe, which is to be expected. I have 2 questions. Is this the time to ask a question? 2 questions.
Ms. Trichet, I think you heard before Mr. Mellor asked if you had an opportunity to ask questions because we have a strict question time and public statement time. Given this is your first time attending here to ask, I will allow you to ask those 2 questions. If you would like to return in future at any stage to make a contribution, if you could please adhere to our standing orders, which is public question time and then public statement time.
So do I ask the questions now?
Please ask the questions,
One.
but it's part of your 3 minutes.
Oh yeah, well, it's short. Did any councillor visit the event disruption during the whole lease period? Question 2, why is it necessary to lease the Cottesloe Sharkbait Beach for paid ticketed events?
And I can only answer on behalf of myself. We can take the question on notice with regard to which councillors attend. I am aware that councillors did, but I wouldn't be able to answer that question completely, so we'll take that question on notice. Mm-hmm. The second question is that we do have a policy which allows there to be a major event at Cottesloe, paid event at Cottesloe Main Beach each year. And so that is why the administration has acted to allow this event, because it complies with our policies, which have been developed in consultation with elected members over the years. So that is the reason why that event is allowed to occur.
Well, I'd like to know, we won't know until the accounts are done at the end of the year, how much money Cottesloe Council earned from the entrepreneurs. That will be a significant number for everybody to know. And that's thank you.
So you've made your public statement. Thank you very much. I apologise, but I'm unable to accept a petition which is an electronic petition without signatures. So that's on the basis of a local law, and the council is required to abide by its local law. But there is nothing to stop people informally looking at it, but I can't do it in an official role at this point in time. But I do want to note the work that you've put into it and the time that you've taken to come along and exercise your democratic right. So thank you for that contribution, but I'm unable to formally accept the petition in my role tonight.
I know the form of the petition is not correct, but I have the names. Are you interested in the names?
I'm unable to enter into debate now, Ms. Trichet. Thank you very much for taking the time to come along.
Through the Chair, if I can just provide some clarification. The Electric Island event was actually approved by Council. I believe it was either the October or the November ordinary Council meeting. So the information about the event is actually in our minutes and what consideration Council made in regards to approving that event.
Thank you very much for filling in that additional background, Mr. CEO. So moving on to the next public statement, we have Penelope Arrow. So, Ms. Arrow, just to remind you to state your full name and your address before speaking. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name's Penelope or Penny Arrow. I live in 5 Sydney Street, South Fremantle. I'm here to represent my family who live on Pearce Street, number 11 Pearce Street in Cottesloe for several decades. I would like to formally thank the council for your in the previous meeting where you have allowed us to consider a memorial tree for my grandfather and notably also my mother, Fleur Arrow, or Nee Harvey. As you all know, my grandfather was Mayor of Cottesloe for some 13 years and stood as a councillor for 30 odd years. So he's quite well known in these walls, shall we say. The intent behind our application initially was that of a family. We thought that that was a really nice, honourable thing to do to represent Cottesloe families who have had significant contribution and lived their lives in the suburb. We love the idea of a tree, and we hope that you will consider our offer of a dog fountain. We like the idea of a really practical piece of infrastructure on Harvey Field. We're happy to cover all the costs. And I would like to request that whilst I understand you are happy to have my grandfather, it be in honour of my grandfather, I would like to request that my mother's name is included on that as well, that being Fleur Arrow. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. The next public statement is Stephen Mellor. Welcome, Mr. Mellor.
I'm Stephen Mellor of 8 Graham Court, Cottesloe, and I'm making a statement as an independent ratepayer. At last week's agenda forum, I was prevented by the presiding member from asking all of my prepared questions on the grounds that they did not relate to agenda items. The printed responses to my April OCM questions I've taken on notice are included in those agenda papers under item 4, listed under the table of contents, so I dispute that decision. On the back of the registration forms, public may attend and ask questions that relate to the agenda items. I was addressing an item. The printed responses are an item both to inform elected members of the responses made on their behalf and to provide them with the opportunity to interrogate and review as part of the meeting process. They also can assess how complete the responses are to the questions asked and which, as in the response 1, is totally evasive and incomplete in my view, and the reason to my seeking further clarity. I also assert that in the response, the local government was stated as being a previous council, where in fact the council is continuing it. They're not separate councils, although the staffing may be. As you must recognise, I am very committed to my community and my interest in local issues by my frequent attendance at council meetings. Any one of the council could have moved to allow me to continue speaking. Why would you agree to shut me down? Community dialogue is key to your major strategy 4.1. So for your information, the following was the brief public statement I requested to present at that meeting, but not allowed to by the presiding member, who chose not to use her discretion. I hope she does tonight. This is what I wanted to state, and I hope you will take under consideration. And now, remember this is a week ago, I read last week on the website within the committee pages that the audit committee meeting was to be held yesterday, as it happened on the 27th of May. I refer to Major Strategy 4.1, engage, inform, actively involve. And in response to the question of the relevant website, suggests that council administration ensure dates and meeting times are included in the What's On calendar on the website for all future agenda forums, council meetings, committee meetings, working group meetings, closing date for council budget suggestions, closing date deadlines for the community surveys and contributions, closing date deadlines for the TOC nominations and grant applications, Cottesloe area SDAU and DAP development applications, and as community information, closing date deadlines for relevant state public consultations. I also suggest a date list would be useful as well as the What's On event icons. I would also like to point out that many do not use Facebook, so content should also be directly available through browsers. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mellor. Now moving on to attendance. Mr Scott?
Are you actually saying I cannot continue asking my question? Is that a decision you've made?
Mr Mello, you made a public statement.
No, before that you stopped me on questions. I asked I had more to say.
Mr Mello, Mr Mello,
So if you deny me that, I just want to know that's what the decision was.
Mr Mello, I used my discretion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mr Scott?
Through the chair, in regards to attendance, I believe councillors Thomas and Mayor Young is our apologies, and councillor Wilenko is on a leave of absence. In regards to the staff, we also have Ms. Stavrianos, who's doing our media for us. She's not mentioned on the attendance, but other than that, all staff are present.
Thank you very much. Moving along now to applications of leave of absence. Do we have any applications of leave of
Sorry,
absence?
just a point of order. I think Mayor Young is an approved leave of absence in the last minutes,
Yes, we approve.
rather than an apology.
She very well could be. That when I spoke to the mayor yesterday, she said that she was an apology tonight, but
No, thank you.
we'll clear that up in the minutes.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Harkins. Moving to item 6.3, applications for leave of absence. Do we have any of those?
Yes, I've got mine. I've given it up to Mr Scott.
Okay. So that is from Councillor Heath from the 24th of June to the 15th of July. Would somebody like to move an approval for that? Councillor Harkins. Anyone like to second that? Councillor Mason. All in favour? That was unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now moving on to declarations of interest, starting from my right, Councillor Mason.
Yes, I declare an impartiality on confidential item 13.1.3, Doscus Lane. I declare an impartiality as the residents are known to me, but I can make my decision based on merit.
Thank you very much. Councillor Bulbeck.
I have no declaration of interest to make.
Councillor Heath.
I have an impartiality conflict to declare on item 10.1.6 as the family are known to me, but I can make a decision on its merits.
Thank you. Councillor Harkins.
Thank you. I have an impartiality interest to declare on 10.1.6 Harvey Field Memorial request, as the family is known to me, but I'm able to make a decision based on merit.
Thank you. Councillor Irvine.
Yeah, I have an impartiality on 10.1.8 on Dean Street parking restrictions, because residents on that street are known to me, but I can make a decision on the merit. I also have a financial interest in 13.1.3 matters behind closed doors, 53 John Street, Doscus Lane, as one of the residents was a donor for my campaign. It's a financial interest.
Thank you very much, and I think that item's already withdrawn because it's behind closed doors, but we'll make sure that we attend to that. Thank you. I have an impartiality interest in item 10.1.8 Dean Street, as the residents in the Dean Street are known to me, but I can make my decision with impartiality. Thank you. We have, I understand, confirmation of minutes. Would someone like to move the confirmation of the minutes for the previous month? Thank you, Councillor Harkins. Seconded Councillor Heath. All those in favour? Okay, so that is unanimous.
Through the chair, is that just for the ordinary council meeting? Because we also have the minutes of the special council meeting on the 20th.
I'm working off this page here, so that was the ordinary council meeting, and then could I separately get that, that the minutes of the special council meeting held on the 20th of May 2024 be confirmed as a true and accurate record? Councillor Heath, seconded Councillor Bulbeck. All in favour? Thank you. In terms of tonight, we have no petitions being moved, no presentations, no deputations, is my understanding. So then moving on to reports, what items have been withdrawn?
So through the chair, the following items have been called up or need to be debated because they require an absolute majority or confidential items. So the items are 10.1.2, change of John Black June Reserve from dog exercise area to dog on leash area. 10.1.5 Seaview Golf Course tee box relocation and fairway realignment. 10.1.6 Harvey Field Memorial request. 10.1.9 Seaview Golf Club Redevelopment Advisory Committee.
Okay. Thank you very much.
And all the confidential items, so 13.1.1 to 13.1.3.
Okay. So then just clarifying, the ones which are going to be voted through en bloc are 10.1.1, 10.1.3, 10.1.4, 10.1.7, 10.1.8 and 10.1.10. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Could I have someone move that the en bloc ones are to be supported? Thank you, Councillor Mason. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Heath. All those in favour? Thank you. So just for the benefit of those present who may not have attended frequently before, if something has been voted en bloc, that means that the officer's recommendation has been supported by everybody, and we don't need to debate and discuss that and make a decision on it. The decision has been taken collectively and unanimously. Some things are withdrawn for discussion because something alternate to the officer's recommendation is wanted, or because we might need to have what's called an absolute majority, which is then the majority of the total number of councillors, i.e. 5 out of 9 need to support it, rather than the majority of the number of people here. And things which are confidential also need to be discussed and debated. So that's how the process. It's to facilitate and save time while still having healthy debate and assuring the best outcomes. So with that in mind, moving on to item... Excuse me very much.
May I suggest that we rejig the agenda slightly based on the attendance?
We certainly can.
Questions from the public?
Yeah, thank you very much. And so with that in mind, my understanding is that we have people here with regard to item 10.1.6, Harvey Field Memorial Request. Before we move to that item, can I just ask if there's anybody here attending for any other item? No. So then what I suggest... Oh, thank you. Dean Street parking. Okay, so the Dean Street parking has gone through en bloc. So that means that the officer's recommendation is held, so that the yellow line installation has been supported. So you're very welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, but we will... Lovely. The Harvey Field Memorial? Lovely, thank you very much. Well, we'll move on to that item now, which is item 10.1.6, Harvey Field Memorial Request on page 30, with the officer's recommendation on page 32. So with this one, what we first need to do is take this in two parts. And depending on what happens with the first part depends on whether we continue with the second part. Because we had a decision which was made recently by council within 3 months, isn't it, Mr Scott?
Doesn't have to have a
timeline. So we're actually overturning a previous decision of council. That's called rescinding. So you actually need to have a motion to rescind a previous decision, which may... If that's supported, we move on to the next part, and that needs to happen by absolute majority. So is there anybody who is wanting to move the motion to rescind? So that is Councillor Irvine. Do I have a seconder for that motion? Thank you. Councillor Irvine, would you like to speak to that motion?
Through the chair, we need to have support of 3 councillors to move the motion.
Okay, thank you very much for reminding me. Councillor Heath. So, and just to clarify, Mr Scott, then the speaking would still be mover, seconder, against and for, so that's just for the moving. Thank you very much. Councillor Irvine, would you like to speak to the motion?
Gilly, I just think that in order to we have to rescind it to move ahead with this amendment and this new motion, so that's why I'm supporting the rescinding of the motion.
Okay. Thank you very much, Councillor Irvine. Councillor Harkins, were you wanting to speak to the motion?
Yes, just to reiterate that I think the alternative being presented in the officer's recommendation is a good alternative. So I think it makes sense that we rescind our original motion. So as Councillor Irvine said, that we can move on to the next motion.
Okay. Is there anybody wanting to speak against the motion to rescind? I will actually speak against the motion to rescind. I am very supportive of finding a way to acknowledge the family, and I think that they have made a very large contribution and a contribution over time, which has been also recognised through oral history, and I think that that's valuable, and part of the value of Cottesloe is its history, so I really recognise and support that. However, I think we actually came up with a really good decision last time with regard to the honouring somebody through something living, such as a tree. And I'm also really cognisant of the fact that we, in the building of Anderson Pavilion, actually had to really sadly lose some trees. And there are some positions that we could place trees where the trees could still thrive and not impact upon views. And I also really know that our administration is excellent at maintaining trees and would actually make sure that those trees thrive. And in the unlikely event that they didn't, they would actually ensure that a tree thrived at that spot. And I'm also really mindful that we've got a strong culture and we've got policies and a green infrastructure plan about to go out to consultation saying we should be having more trees, whereas actually the decision to put a watering fountain in one spot isn't particularly backed up by our budget processes and our policies. And so I would prefer that our infrastructure, our hard infrastructure, got put in based on needs analysis rather than on a request by, however well-meaning, and it's extremely well-meaning, for that request to be and that infrastructure being put in on that basis. So for those reasons, I really want to stick with our original decision because I feel really comfortable that that was a really well thought out decision at that time. So I don't feel a need to rescind while still really respecting the family's wishes. Thank you. Is anybody else wanting to speak in favour? No, if we're finished with the debate, then you do get an opportunity to sum up, but we just need to see if anybody else wants to speak in favour of the motion or against the motion. Then, Councillor Irvine, I would please sum up. Yep, just bearing in mind you can't introduce new information, you can sum up.
Summing up in terms of your objection as well, is that possible?
Yes, you can respond, yeah.
Yeah, so look, I sort of, I understand fully what you're saying. I think that is there an opportunity to potentially do a fountain and a tree to sort of, meet both objectives? Is that something that we could introduce potentially? That's something that I'd like to, in terms of my summing up, propose.
Councillor Irvine, that's a question rather than a summing up, so we'll have to leave it as a summing up statement and then put it to the vote.
As you wish.
All those in favour of the rescinding motion? All those against?
Sorry, I just noticed hesitation, so were you up or down, Councillor?
Can I preside? Thank you very much. All those, I will make sure we've got clear hands, so all those in favour? Okay. All those against? So that is 5, so that's an absolute majority. So we are proceeding to the next part of the motion. And Councillor Harkins, did you have an alternate motion or an amendment? Okay, so would somebody like to move parts 2, 3 and 4 if people are wanting to move that to get that on foot? If it's an amendment, no. So Councillor Heath and seconded by Councillor Irvine. So would you like to speak to that, Councillor Heath?
Yes, I just...
Oh, thank you very much for reminding you.
I just reiterate what is in the officer's report there, and I think we've heard from Ms Arrow this evening about the history of the family. And I think the fact that the family are going to pay for some infrastructure, which is I know will be very well used for the sports players to drink and the dogs to drink from, I think that would be an amazing asset to get at Harvey Field in honour of Mr Harvey and his daughter Fleur Arrow.
Thank you. Councillor Irvine.
Yeah, I sort of concur with Councillor Heath. I think that Cottesloe has got a huge history, and certainly the Harveys are a big part of that history. And I think it will certainly be something that will get a lot of use and be really a big benefit to the community. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Is anybody wanting to speak against or move an amendment?
I want to put my amendment.
Thank you.
So do you want me to do that now?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. You have it in front of you. My amendment, do you want me to read whole
I think
thing,
points 3 and 4 stand, don't they? Is that-
Well, the only difference is point 2. So I'll read point 2. That council approves the drink fountain request to Anderson Pavilion and Memorial Plaque, and that the applicant bears the full cost of a standard Town of Cottesloe drink fountain that contains a dog drink bowl, plaque and any other elements required. And then 3 and 4 are the same.
Okay.
So the amendment, just to clarify, is crossing out the words for only the former Mayor Harvey mentioned on the. So I'll cross that out. If anyone would like to second that.
Councillor Mason? Did you want to, and did
Thank
you want to
you.
speak to that, or you?
Oh, don't I speak?
Oh, so
first?
apologies.
Yeah,
Yes, of course
that's
you
all
do.
right. Thank you. So talking about the drink fountain in general, oh no, I can only talk about the amendment, can't I? Sorry. So the amendment, if you look at the rationale, the last resolution we approved in February, we were honouring Mayor Harvey and Fleur Arrow. So we'd already passed that, so we'd been past that. This time, for some reason, the Fleur Arrow was taken out. The family have requested that we honour both the Harveys and Fleur Arrow nee Harvey, so I can't see a reason not to. If we apply the same criteria that are used for memorials at the foreshore, and that's what the administration are recommending, the quote 3.1 says that the person has a significant and unquestioned connection to the Cottesloe foreshore, for example, long-standing unpaid volunteers effective in the maintenance and upkeep of the foreshore, or a well-known foreshore, so substitute Harvey Field, Cottesloe, personality. And you can see I've quoted in the letter that was sent to us in February, pointing out that Fleur Arrow was born in Cottesloe, went to Cottesloe Primary School, lived in Pierce Street, and lived in Pierce Street till she died, lifetime member of the tennis club, went to Harvey Field with the dogs. Her friends referred to her as the undisputed Queen of Cottesloe, and there's an oral history of Fleur, not just Mayor Harvey. So I think all of that does slot into the well-known personality. So I think it would be, I can't see a reason why we wouldn't let the applicant mention their grandfather and their mother. I can't see. If you look around a million plaques around Cottesloe, you can see all sorts of people are mentioned. So that is my comment on the amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Mason, would you like your turn to speak now?
Yes, I think it is a beautiful commemoration for this family, especially the drink fountain and dog bowl, which really relates to the family and her visiting Harvey Field with her dogs, and I think it will be a great asset to Harvey Field and the plethora of dogs and humans that enjoy that open space, and I think it's a wonderful amendment to our original decision for this drink fountain to be put in place.
Thank you very much. I'm wondering, Councillor Harkins, if you might be prepared to incorporate the words, or I would otherwise move, it's an amendment, I can't move an amendment to your amendment, can I? No, I have to move a separate amendment after this has got through to the wording, so don't worry. Does anybody... If I was wanting to ensure that it says the full cost of a standard drink fountain is a little bit ambiguous with its full cost of installation of a... That's not in the amendment. Yeah, so I'll move a separate amendment. Yeah, that's fine if it gets... Okay, so are people happy with the amendment? If anybody else doesn't want to speak against, I will put it to the vote. All those in favour of the amendment? It's unanimous. Thank you. I would like to move a minor amendment myself. Thank you very much for correcting me on procedure, Councillor Harkins, most appreciated. Just the words "full cost of installation of a standard Cottesloe drink fountain," just for clarity that it's not the purchase of the drink fountain, it is purchase and installation, which also requires plumbing, etc. So just so that we've got clarity on that. So the wording is "full cost of installation of a standard drink fountain." If I had a seconder to that.
Through the chair, could I suggest the wording there, applicant bears the full cost inclusive of installation and purchase of a standard?
Okay, I'm happy with that wording, thank you. Do I have a seconder for that? I don't think I'll need to speak to it. Do you need to speak to it, Councillor Irvine? Would anyone like to speak against?
I just have a question. If I wanted to get a tree thrown in as well, do I have to wait until this is passed and then we propose another amendment to add?
Well, we've had a rescinding motion, so I think that we can't be going there actually because we've just rescinded that. So, thank you. So, if anyone wants to speak against that, my amendment, the amendment? Okay, all those in favour? Thank you. So then going back to the original motion, does anybody want to speak? We've had the mover and seconder, and you've moved an amendment. Does anybody want to speak against? Anyone else wanting to speak in favour? Councillor Heath?
Didn't see.
I just wanted, I think I can answer, I just wanted to point out that hopefully with our tree plan and going forward, that won't preclude us from planting hopefully plenty of trees at Harvey Field. So I just wanted to say hopefully that can happen as well as the drink fountain.
Councillor Harkins.
Thank you. I'd like to concur with that comment. We could even orchestrate to plant a tree near the dog fountain, one would think. So I just wanted to reiterate, as Councillor Mason was saying, I think this piece of infrastructure is important. When we all attended the opening of the Anderson Pavilion, I think we were all approached by many dog walkers who said it'd be great if there was a dog fountain. I think all of us heard that. So I think the timing is quite fortuitous that we're actually going to get that piece of infrastructure that dog walkers have asked, and a bonus that the runners can have a drink as well. So I think the timing seems to be fine. Thank you.
Okay. So I think I might have slightly lost track of things. Councillor Heath, you spoke then, but you did actually move it as well. But I will allow you to sum up if you're wanting to, if no one else is wanting to speak in favour. Okay, because Councillor Councillor Irvine moved the original, and then Councillor Heath moved the recension, and then Councillor Heath moved the parts 2, 3 and 4.
I have nothing further to say than
Okay.
what Councillor Harkins just said.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you. Then I will put it to the vote. All those in favour of the second half of the motion? Those against? Thank you very much. So that is successful. So returning now to the order of the council agenda, 10.1.2 on page 13 with the officer's recommendation on page 14. Okay. Okay, so we have withdrawn these items for you. So if we just come to that, so you have got, so this is John Black June. So you've got a alternate motion rather than amendment, have you? Okay. So I am happy for you to, and that was already submitted. So I am happy for you to move your motion now, given that you have given that to us on notice through the administration.
So, point of order, can I just clarify, the one we've been given is the final, Ms Pilkington? No. Okay. So
No, that's another that's another another thing that I got that
recommendation. So as it's the officers, as I take the officers' advice, so moving back to that.
So just for confirmation, the vote is 3 for, 3 against, but plus 1 against in regards to the casting vote.
Yes.
So the vote is 3
Yeah.
for, against, lost.
So it's lost.
So it's 3.
3 all, and then there's a casting vote which is reverted back to the officer's recommendation. So I will move the officer's recommendation.
That's already been foreshadowed by Councillor
Sorry, thank
Harkin.
you very much. Councillor, do you want to speak to that?
Can I reserve my right to speak? Oh, I get to sum up anyway, don't I?
Yeah,
Yes, I'll reserve my right.
okay. And the seconder was?
Yourself.
Was myself. Okay, thank you very much. I would like to say it's a difficult decision to make because you can discuss things, argue it both ways, but on balance of sort of taking the recommendation of the officers into consideration. So I feel that dogs will be welcome in an area surrounding a playground, but that they'll need to be on lead from a safety point of view and from a habitat protection point of view, and that we can separately look at do a needs analysis if we need be through looking at what's going on in terms of the availability of dog off-lead areas. But I feel that we can make that as a separate piece of work if need be. So for that reason, I think it's worthwhile actually just progressing with the change to a dog off-lead to a dog on-lead area only. So that is the reason for my supporting the officer's recommendation. Does anybody want to speak against?
Sorry, can I ask a point of order? Will my alternate motion go on?
Through the chair, yes, it's been moved, it's been seconded, it's been debated, and it's been voted on. So it has to be the rationale won't be though.
So does anybody else want to speak against? Would anybody else like to speak in favour? Councillor Harkins, would you like to exercise your right to sum up?
Oh, well, sorry, just you were a bit quick for me. Sorry, I'd just like to speak against it actually, even though I moved it, only by default. But the only reason I speak against it is I thought it was a good plan to have community consultation. So that's why I'm speaking against it, because we're just going out there declaring that it's no longer can you have your dog on. Your dog has to be on a lead, and as I said earlier, having them in the playground that's a fact. That's a local law anyway. So I was just keen. I'm reluctant to support it because we're not doing any community consultation.
So I will put it to the vote. All those in favour of the officer's recommendation? All those against? I'm in the unenviable position of having to use my casting vote in favour. Unenviable, unenviable. So that was carried.
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
We won't be attacked by the dog.
If they want their dog to run under a bike or a skateboard.
I just order, please, order everyone. So next item.
10.1.5, Seaview Golf Course tee box relocation.
Which is on page 22, and the item and the officer's recommendation is on page 29. Do I have a mover for the officer's recommendation? It's the Seaview Golf Club item. Do I have a mover for the officer's recommendation? I'm happy to, or Councillor Heath, if you'd like to move it, and I'm happy to second it. Would you like to speak to the motion?
I think we've got a lot of information there in the officer's report, which And I think we've been taken through all the steps, and I think it's a good idea if we wait till we hear from the insurers, and I'm happy for it to be addressed in less than 2 months' time at the July meeting.
Okay. Thank you very much. I don't feel I need to speak to this one. I was happy to second it to get things going. Is anybody wanting to speak against or move?
I've got a proposed amendment that do I shadow it now?
So, no, so you can move your amendment and read it out, and then we can see if you get a seconder and then go from there. I'm just going to make sure everyone's got that.
It's different actually. This is the one that's different. So I've brought a few copies, but possibly not enough for everybody to have one.
I've got it on the screen.
Okay.
It's been hopefully clarified by the CEO.
Thank you.
Okay, good.
Speedy here.
Okay, so the first points are just saying that council considers the response from Seaview Golf Club and the insurers and their insurers to the November 2023 ordinary council meeting resolution, and defers this item no later than July 2024 ordinary council meeting for the local government insurance scheme advice to be obtained and returned to council. And then there's a third point I'm suggesting: request that the Chief Executive Officer seeks the views of Seaview Golf Club on the proposed Par 4 Diagram B by Richard Chamberlain, specifically considering Seaview Golf Club's willingness to accept the proposal, what, if any, amendments would be required for Seaview Golf Course to accept the proposal, and if Seaview Golf Course is not willing to accept the proposal in any form, the estimated number of trees that will be lost. Oh, actually, I'd rather that not be quite like that. Sorry, I want that to be, sorry, I just picked up what Matthew said. That would be lost with the Seaview Golf Club's preferred design. That's current, they might actually come to something else. Sorry, that last phrase will be the estimated number of trees that will be lost with Seaview Golf Club's preferred design.
With those people.
And then request the CEO to include the comments from Seaview Golf Course in relation to point 3 in the July 2024 OCM report. And I'm again proud to put on my microphone. So.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for the motion?
Just a point of order, because it's sort of new information, can we hear from the CEO's response to this? Is that possible?
If there's any difficulties with implementation, etc., is that what you're meaning,
Yes.
Councillor Harkins? Thank you very much, Mr. Scott. If you wouldn't mind giving us a little bit of your thoughts with regard to the workability of the amendment and any implications for the administration. Is that what you're intending, Councillor Harkins?
I think Councillor Bulbeck's amendment is simply asking the administration to ask the Seaview Golf Club of their thoughts in regards to diagram B, which is on page 25 of the report, which is the Par 4.
Have we not done that? Haven't we done that?
We have, but where the amendment is to specifically ask it. The views of the Seaview Golf Course, I believe, have been stated several times in regards to what they want. Councillor Bulbeck's simply asking to ask them again.
Okay. Thank you.
So you were asking a question rather than seconding. Okay, thank you. Do we have a seconder for Councillor Bulbeck's amendment? That was then lost through lack of a seconder. So then we are going back to the original motion. Is anybody else wanting to speak against the motion? Or is anyone wanting to speak against the motion? I see not anyone else. Anyone else wanting to speak in favour? So, Councillor Heath, would you like to...
I was just going to speak in support and say that we've had various discussions around this. We've got a plethora of information, and I look forward to having it in the July 24 OCM. I think that's a good timeline.
Thank you. Councillor Heath, did you want to sum up?
Well, I'm exactly what Katie said. She just did, Councillor
Councillor
Mason just did that for me. Thank you. I think the information in the officer's report has been really very explanatory, and we have had quite a bit of discussion and explanation about the status of those areas of the golf course, and I think the July meeting will be great because we'll have that final piece of the puzzle, which is the insurer's information. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? That is unanimous. Okay, so next item is 10.1.9, Seaview Golf Club Advisory Committee on page 39, Officer's recommendation on page 41.
I have an amendment, but I could turn it into a councillor
I
motion.
think it's probably best if
Yeah.
it's just moved as the councillor motion.
Yeah, that would be really
Sorry.
helpful. Thank you, Councillor Harkins. Would you mind reading the motion?
Yes. So the councillor motion is that council by absolute majority, 1, approves the attached Seaview Golf Club Redevelopment Advisory Committee Charter. Number 2, appoints Mayor Young and councillors Heath, Mason and Welenko as members of the Seaview Golf Club Redevelopment Advisory Committee. And number 3, appoints Seaview Golf Club's nominees. It's fine to read them out. They're not redacted, are they?
No.
Tim Willem and Steve Joski as members of the Seaview Golf Club Redevelopment Advisory Committee.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for that motion? Councillor Mason? Councillor Harkins, did you want to speak to it?
Not at all.
Councillor Mason? No. Did anybody want to speak against? All those in favour? Councillor Irvine? All those in favour? Councillor Heath, your microphone's still on at the moment, just in case you're wanting to sort of, mutter under your breath. Okay, so the next item is confidential items. So I need a motion to move that we go behind closed doors. Do I have a move for that? Councillor Mason, is there a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Heath. All those in favour? That is unanimous. Thank you very much, press and members of the gallery, for your attendance. And I'm just confirming that we need to turn off the video
Yes.
and audio.
Thank you very much. I'll now
Thank you very much. I'll just read out the three resolutions which occurred behind closed doors. Firstly, item 13.1.1, TO4/2024 supply and layering of asphalt and road profiling tender recommendation. The recommendation or the resolution is that Council, 1, authorises the Chief Executive Officer to award the supply and laying of asphalt and road profiling tender to tenderer A, mentioned in the officer recommendation in brief section, and 2, authorises the A, Mayor and Chief Executive Officer to sign the contract and affix the town's common seal if required. B, Chief Executive Officer or delegate to manage the supply and laying of asphalt and road profiling contract, including provision of possible variations, provided the variation is necessary in order for the goods or services to be supplied, does not change the general scope of the contract and is managed within the allotted budget allocation. And C, Mayor, elected members in the town's administration to disclose the identity of the successful tenderer. Thank you very much. Mr. Scott.
Through the chair, I believe the successful tenderer, Mr. Khan, is down there. Thank you.
Thank you. The second item is 13.1.2, 120 to 121 Marine Parade Licence Agreement. The resolution was that Council, by simple majority, approves the implementation of option 2 for the charge and caveat clause within the agreement to be replaced by a $35,000 compliance bond, and 3, authorises the Mayor and Chief Executive Officer to sign the revised Regulation 17 agreement and affix the town's common seal, if required, subject to the proponent paying all legal cost to prepare this document. And then item 13.1.3, 33 John Street, Doscus Lane encroachment on page 58 with the officer's recommendation on page 63, being that Council notes that 1, notes additional legal advice obtained, and 2, instructs the Chief Executive Officer to implement the pathway as specified under the recommended approach within the officer's comment. Thank you. And on that note, I will close the meeting at 7:22. Thank you.